So this video is going to kind of show the difference between your standard SN95 axle brackets and the offset brackets that are available in the market. Now, a lot of folks doing 5-lug conversions might grab a 94 to 98 SN95 axle and just swap the entire axle in. Others may take the brake setup off an SN95 and then use a set of 94 to 98 axles. So in my car, I'm running SN95 Cobra disc brakes, and I am using 94 to 98 axles. And this kind of gives you an idea of where this SN95 17x8 wheel sits. I have a 245 45 17 tire on here, and as you can see, it fits pretty good within the wheel well. Come back a little bit here. So if you are running 17x8 SN95 wheels, you might be okay with that. But for some of you that want to run wider wheels, 9-inch or 10-inch wheels, you're going to need to use offset brackets. And here's what the differences are. All right, so here we are a little ways in the future. I've got the rear axle out to do a couple other things here. But you can see here, this is your standard Ford solid axle Cobra setup. This is actually, I purchased this as the M2300M kit a number of years ago. And that kit comes with your axle brackets, your caliper dust shields, your rotor dust shields, your anti-moan brackets, and it came with, not these rotors, but it came with a stock set of rotors there. And that allowed me to bolt the Cobra calipers on. But as you can see here, this axle bracket here is a cast straight piece of aluminum. And if I go to this side, which is taken apart, you can see that the distance that the axle is away from this is because a set of ABS exciter rings would mount in this area here that I'm pointing to. Now with the Foxbody, obviously you're not running ABS, so that allows us the luxury of being able to pull this axle back in about roughly 3/4 of an inch to use 5-lug stock offset axles here. Now the way that is done is by using a bracket like this, which has a little bit of a kick to it there to actually offset it inward. And here we have the left-hand side OEM Cobra bracket for Cobra rear brakes. And you can see how it's constructed flat. It's cast. And then right here, you can see the offset bracket here. So the two axles on the outside, this axle and this axle, are both 94 to 98 Mustang axles. You notice one of them has the ABS rings on them and one does not. They're the exact same length, same axle, other than the ABS ring. As you can see here, I have all of them at the end using this extension. And you can see the length here difference between the Fox length. This is a Moser axle, 28 spline, Fox length with SN95 flanges. I don't have the studs yet. But you can clearly see the 3/4 inch difference between Fox length and the 94 to 98 axle. And here is the work in progress. New axles installed and the new brackets installed. So I did go ahead and install the factory anti-moan brackets, this bracket right here. Some will say it's not really needed with the offset brackets. If you do get any sort of vibration or harmonics from your rear brakes, this is probably the part that you're going to want to install to take care of that. Now the way to install that, they do fit. There's quite a bit of, it's tight on the edge here, but they do actually get in there. The way you want to install it is mock it up with this U-bracket loosely, and then tighten these bolts up first, crank them down. I haven't gone fully all the way down yet, since I just wanted to show this for demonstration. But you want to suck these all the way down first before you start tightening this up. It is a little bit on the tight side when using the offset brackets, but it does fit. Now sometimes shims are needed to adjust the offset of the caliper bracket. As you can see here, I'm not using any shims. The shims would typically go between this red bracket here and the black offset bracket to kind of space it out. But I had sufficient gap that I really did not need to add a spacer here, so none was used at all. But they typically supply, I believe, 2 washers of varying thicknesses here. But both sides here, none was needed. I have the axle all set, ready to go, ready to bolt back in the car. Just want to kind of give you one last overview for those that need visuals. So this setup is all completely bolted in with the offset brackets, and I'll go over some of the parts that I used. So to start off, I'm using Mosier axles. These are the 28 spline with SN95 flanges. As you can see, the hub is the correct diameter for the SN95 rotors. These are also Mosier studs, axle studs. The Mosier axles specifically request a stud with a 625 knurl, so that's kind of why I went with them. One of the complaints about them is they do have an area that's unthreaded, as you can see there. But I've done some test fitting here with my wheels, with my cast style wheels. It's not really going to be an issue. The wheel itself is going to cover up to here. But if you're using steel wheels, that may be an issue for you with these studs. Again, to recap, this is an SN95 11.65 inch rotor. These are SN95 Cobra calipers. These are powder coated in red. I'm using the North Race Car offset brackets for a Cobra with the 11.65 rotor. Factory OE anti-moan brackets, but you can also use the SVE anti-moan brackets. These are Maximum Motorsports stainless steel brake hoses. This kit is specifically intended for a 94 to 95 Mustang GT. They feature an axle that has the brake line. They feature brake lines that mount on the axle, as you see here. So this bolts up here. I did have to drill on one side to mount them, and then they made up to the SVE stainless steel drum to disc brake conversion lines. So these lines here are actually made by Classic Tube, and they make this a strictly bolt-on affair. This is just an additional rubber grommet that I had to kind of mount the line securely. Also, as part of the Maximum kit, I got the 3-piece kit that also has the stainless steel center brake hose as well. These are old. This is why you're seeing the oxidation on here. I've had this kit on my car for about 10 years now. I am running the dust shield on this side. I just happened to install it while I was mocking this up. The other side, I do not have the dust shield on. Kind of optional if you want to do that or not. Like I said before, these are also optional. You may want to try them without the anti-moan braces. But one modification I had to make to the rotors here is, if you see, the dust shield gets pretty close to the rotor. Now on the side here, it doesn't matter because that lip is actually about another 1/4 inch past the rotor. So it'll never really touch it. But where this comes in here is where you have to make a small little tweak away from the rotor, otherwise it will hit. So you can kind of see where I bent that outward in a way. But that's it. I'm ready to install this in the car. I'll post some photos of before and after in terms of how it changes the offset. Again, this takes in, these are going to suck in the wheels about 0.75 inches on each side. So we're back on the ground, and we'll give a couple perspective shots here. So you can see now that this wheel is relatively pulled in from the original position. A couple shots overhead, you can see it completely disappears inside the well. So that's a significant difference at 3/4 inch. So for those of you that might be considering running SN95 17x8 wheels, if you go with disc brakes, you may want to consider going with the SN95 axles to kind of get that extra 3/4 inch out. Here's another look down the edge of the car, and you can see that that wheel is pretty tucked into the fender. And this is just footage previously shot with the SN95 axles. These are using the 94 to 98 axles. Just wanted to kind of go back and show you what it looked like in comparison to the Fox offset brackets. So hopefully this gives everyone a better idea of the differences between using SN95 axles and brackets versus using Fox length axles and brackets. So depending on the wheels that you run, you can make a decision as to which one is better for you. Thanks for watching.